The Minnesota Vikings defense ranks last in a key metric across the National Football League. But does it matter? In this video, I'll break down what it is and why it's not as simple as the box score might tell you. Minnesota Vikings defense through 4 games has only allowed 14.5 points per game, but it's not just the points allowed that matters here. It's about the yards too. And the Vikings are last in the National Football League right now in passing yards allowed, having given up 1,097, 6 more than the 31st ranked team, which is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, looking at it like that, well, you could just say the Vikings defense is bad. They rank last in passing. Passing is the most effective and efficient way to be able to move the football and score points. Well, the Vikings are 4th in points allowed per game at 14.5. That is not exactly a winning formula for any team that plays the Vikings. Yeah, you want to be able to pass the ball, but you still have to score. The Vikings aren't allowing teams to do that. So why are they last in passing? Game script. The Vikings defense has been so dominant in neutral situations, and the offense for the Vikings has moved the ball effectively and put up points each week. They put up 34 against the Texans, 31 against the Packers, 28 against the Giants, and 23 against the 49ers. And they have been very effective in each one of those football games. So why is the defense allowing so many passing yards? It's because of that game script. 70.96% of the time, the Minnesota Vikings are being thrown on. They've only allowed 300 rushing yards so far this year, good for 75 yards per game, and that's a winning formula as well. Why? The game script has changed so much because the Vikings have taken huge leads. They have held 20-plus point leads in 3 of their 4 football games, with the lone exception being against the San Francisco 49ers. So being that they have these big leads, running the ball isn't really a smart move because it drains the clock and you're not going to be able to pick up huge chunks of yards. So teams are throwing it. And just in the last drive against the Green Bay Packers, Jordan Love put up 90 of his near 400 yards. So about a quarter of his yards came on one drive when the Vikings were essentially playing a prevent defense. So what we did was we went to rbsdm.com. Running backs don't matter, a site by analytical analyst Ben Baldwin, where he kind of takes like EPA, success rate, and breaks it down in a much easier to read format. So what we did was we took neutral situations. And by neutral situations, when the win probability is between 10 and 90%. And we use the 10 to 90% because if you're down 14 in the middle of the third quarter, it's probably not going to be a 90% win probability. It will be once you get into the fourth, but it also makes it so garbage time is not impacted. Garbage time being the game's pretty much out of hand, and now you're just padding stats. We don't want to include that. We want to just talk about situations where the game is in doubt. And the Vikings defense has been dominant in those situations across the National Football League. They are first in EPA per play allowed overall, first in drop back EPA per play. So anytime a quarterback drops back, they're second in overall success rate, second in drop back success rate, second in rush EPA allowed, and 7th in rushing success rate. That's a dominant defense when the game script is not in flux and the game is still in doubt. The Vikings defense is playing just as good, if not better, than everybody in the National Football League. And when you look at it without those garbage time filters to take into effect those random situations, not necessarily random is the wrong word. The situations where you can throw the ball a lot and get a lot of yards because the Vikings aren't going to play their standard defense. They're going to play basic concepts. They're not going to show you a bunch of weird looks. They're not going to try and put stuff on film when the game is already out of hand. And I think that matters here. So this is where they rank without any garbage time. Second in EPA per play allowed, dropping a full 10th of a point, which is a significant amount, let me tell you. 5th in overall success rate, 2nd in drop back EPA per play, also dropping a 10th of a point. 6th in drop back success rate, 6th in EPA rush per play, and still 7th in rushing success rate. Those matter. And when you include the garbage time, the numbers go down, but they're still really good. They're a consistent, unanimous top 10 defense in those metrics. So that's why I'm not reading too much into, oh, they lead the league in passing yards allowed. Well, they're doing a phenomenal job in stopping teams when it matters. And if you have to get a 96-yard drive with 90 of them being passing yards to still lose the football game, I can live with that because I know my defense pulverized the Green Bay Packers for the entirety of the first 45 minutes. And they did most of their damage in the fourth quarter, where, let's be real, the Vikings helped them out quite a bit. This Vikings defense is for real. They're pounding teams. They're doing it when the game is still in doubt, and they are still doing it when the game has already been decided. Don't worry about some of these overarching metrics. Look at the advanced ones. They're going to tell you the real story. Just like when the Vikings were so low in DVOA, and oh, the Vikings are frauds because they're winning all these one-score games. It's not sustainable. Playing like this is sustainable because this is just dominant football. You're not getting fake wins. You're not getting flukes. You're just winning. And that's something that we can all get behind. I'm Tyler Forness of ADC Sports. Skol Vikings.